Thank you for the introduction. It is a pleasure to be here today. I'm going to talk about technology and the future of healthcare. But first, I will introduce myself a little bit more. I'm an associate professor at the Faculty of Law. Closer to the mouth? Is it better? Thank you. And I have a background as a practicing lawyer. I've been in academia since 2010. I teach several areas of law, including a course in AI law. My main research interest is law and the implications of emerging technologies, and that is why I'm here today. I'm also the project leader for AI Care. It's a project on AI and automated systems and the right to health. And a project called ConcertX that just started. It is about personalized, immersive digital concert experiences. So this is a little bit more about this project and the reason why I'm here talking today. We're looking into how AI and other types of digital technologies are changing the existing legal and ethical norms that regulate healthcare, and how this could or should be improved or complemented by new measures to ensure that the right to health is safeguarded. This is a project funded by WASP HR, Padival and by foundations. And we take health as a central value and a fundamental right, and we look at availability and accessibility and acceptability and quality of healthcare. And it is within this project that I will present today some trends, some technology trends that are or will change healthcare in the future. Now, it's always difficult to make predictions for the future, and when we think about the future, there are different futures. There's a future that comes in a couple of years from now. There's a future that will come for our children or grandchildren. Today, I will look at technologies that are already starting to be possible. They are being tested, and some of them are already being implemented, although not in a large scale. The first technology trend concerns electronic health records. We already have them not at the level that we might see in the future, but we already have something. And their interoperability, the possibility of putting together more information from more sources and more devices. It will facilitate, the hope is that once we have interoperability between different electronic health records and sources of electronic health data, this will facilitate data sharing between healthcare providers across geographical and administrative barriers, as we can see today here, with different regions having different electronic healthcare systems, but also between different European Union countries. There's already regulation being enacted to facilitate this, and eventually even globally, the possibility that we can travel around and then take our healthcare records with us in our telephones. Also the possibility for the patients and non-patients, but everyone, to connect various sources of relevant health information to their own health record. Another trend is general e-health. We already see digital medical consultations, they're already existing, but also apps and chat boxes. These are used already, again, to some extent, but it might be even broader in the future, to create triage systems to decide who gets a consultation in what order, and booking appointments. Diagnose apps, they exist, for example, for skin conditions, and for other conditions as well, for monitoring symptoms to provide health advice, and also for therapy and wellness, especially in the sector of mental health. Other trends are wearable devices. More and more, we some of them are general purpose and they can be adapted to many different uses. Fitness trackers, blood pressure cuffs, glucose monitoring systems, EGC monitors. Also automated dispensation systems. This is one of the examples we see there in the picture that provide and help patients that have chronic conditions and many comorbidities to take track of medication, when they should take what medication and what, but also syringes and inhalers that might be automated. Implantable devices, this is an app. It is same things that exist today, but an upgrade of the existing technologies, such as pacemakers, also again continuous glucose monitoring, but implanted with also insulin pumps as some of the examples. Multi-purpose equipment, also we're going to see this more and more. Connected scales, care robots, they also being tested to be used to, for example, to lift heavy patients, to make sure that patients that have to lie down in bed, that are not movable, that they can be moved around so that they don't create skin issues, skin problems and injuries. Smart watches as well, with possibility of using different apps. Tracking balance and fall, for example. Emergency calls, links to healthcare and to services at home. The use of artificial intelligence and machine learning for diagnosis and treatment tools is also part of a trend, and also several of these tools are being tested and tried out. And the first trend is assisted medical decision-making for the interpretation of samples, like blood samples or other samples, but also for images, for identifications of diagnosis and treatment. Surgery tools and surgery robots. Some of them exist, well, with mixed results. There are some problems sometimes with them, but in the future more and more will come. But also personalized or precision medicine tools. This can be used to match patients to the best therapeutic options, to choose the best dose of a given medicine, to anticipate side effects and adverse reactions, and so on. Another trend is to use virtual reality and augmented reality in healthcare. This is a tool, a very good tool for training medical professions without the risk that it consists of training in a live patient, training medical students, but also for the professional development of medical doctors or nurses for more rare procedures. Helping also surgeons to plan and to visualize in real time complex procedures. And also to the use by patients for pain management and rehabilitation. There are also some studies that have been made and uses in, not in Sweden that I've seen, but I've seen in Ireland that they're using this virtual reality for some patients that live with chronic pain, to help them put themselves in a state of meditation and to improve the management of pain without heavy chemicals. Other trends, they concern biomedical innovation. And some of them, as I see that I have here, are also being used already by the industry. The use of large data sets for accelerating the finding target drugs and identifying which ones to proceed with further research and development. The use of predictive models for finding and improvement effectiveness of drugs, improving clinical trial design, tools to predict new and untested compounds' bioactivity, to improve the accuracy and efficiency and quality assurance processes, but also to try to find what are new purposes known drugs can be used for. Analysis of drug combinations, also patient stratification, so look at patients, different patients groups, and see what groups might respond better to what types of treatment, and what possible new drugs can be found for specific patient groups. And also analysis of real-world evidence to identify patterns, trends, associations that couldn't, perhaps they're not apparent using traditional means of research. But also to do post-marketing safety monitoring to ensure that side effects and adverse reactions can be tracked in a more efficient way. So far it seems like all of this can greatly improve healthcare. And it's true, I'm a technical optimist and I have great hopes for the future, but I also can see that there can be some problems here. We're called here the unicorn in the room. And the first one is the loss of human connection in healthcare. All this technology, they're based on data, and there is a tendency, the more we use them, to deitify patients and human beings, where humans become data points. Also, this will mean a lot of automatization. Many of the current procedures and processes in healthcare and other types of care, like elderly care, will be automated. And those persons who are working now will be, to some extent, replaced by digital tools, robots, apps, and the likes. And another issue is that any biases, any malfunction, which also occurs in humans, we all make mistakes, will have mass implications. A person that is tired, did not sleep well, and makes a mistake affects 1 or 2 patients, but an app or an AI tool that has a bias in their training data or that is not working properly will be applicable to a large number of patients before, or potentially before we can figure out that something is wrong with it. There's also the danger of exclusions of those that can't or do not know how to use and interact with technology. This is not a new problem. It is a problem that we've seen in all stages of digitalization of society. And it can be solved to a certain extent with more information, with more training of everyone in society to use with these tools. But one of the issues that we see is that if technology comes very fast, it's very difficult to keep up. And at the same time, there comes many different tools, many different things at the same time, and we don't really keep up with it. And I can see for myself, I'm a technology adept, and I try to keep up with all those things, and I try to have all these gadgets and all these things. And often I'm surprised with something new, and I don't know how to work. Also, we have to see that healthcare, it might be the daily life of those who work with it, and perhaps, unfortunately, for some patients who have chronic disease, it will be their daily life. But for most people, it will not be something that we enter into contact every day. So it might happen that because there are so many tools and they are so sophisticated that patients will have difficulties understanding how to interact with them, and that might have some health-related issues. We can see also that the negative side also is that patients and families can have fewer opportunities and possibilities to affect their own care because everything will be so standardized and so automated. But at the same time, if there is a lot of data and if these tools work as it is hoped that they will, the care will also be more even across the entire country here in Sweden, but also if we think about at the European or international level, more accessible, will not be dependent on the existing of a certain expertise in the region or in the place that we live, and also more precise, more personalized, more adapted to the needs of the individual. Some issues are going to be crucial and they are very important, which is to ensure the quality and to solve some technical issues with these tools. Now, these tools comes from many different providers, many different companies, and they vary also in quality and in specification. One of the things that is going to be very important and is already being thought of, and there is legislation coming up on this, is standardization, creating technical standards for some of these tools. Also, interoperability, it is an issue. The more these tools come and the more diversified they are, the more the need for them to be interoperable with different types of systems. But also certification. It is important that there is a solid process to certify these types of tools. The medical doctors and the clinicians, the nurses, don't have the knowledge and expertise nor the time to ensure that the tools that they're going to use, if they have the right training data, if they are working, they have to trust that they've been certified and that this process is sound and ensures the quality of the tools that they work with. Another issue is going to be privacy and data protection. This is an issue that is recurrent in anything that has to do with digitalization, with use of AI and other types of digital tools. They require a large amount of data. And in the case of health application, it is very sensitive data. And it requires not just a large amount of data from those who interact, the patients, those who interact with the care system. In order for them to be more accurate and to provide better results, they require data for all members of society. And sometimes, in some cases, we cannot dissociate one and the other. For example, in the case of genomic data, the data from the patient cannot be completely isolated from the data of other family members. And the negative point in here is that the more digitalization and the more we move to digitalization of everyday life, the more our private sphere is eroded, up to a point where it might cease to exist to a certain level, because there will be data about everything that we do. And all that data can be, well, it already exists today, but we still see that the data is still not all put together in one specific digital profile of each individual, but we might come to that. The positive part here is that, well, of course, we will get better healthcare, more personalized, but also that we might think that in a datafied society, those things that are non-quantifiable, that makes us who we are, those types of attributes will become more valuable and more important in social relations as well. For all of that, of course, the law has solutions. Some of these things require regulation. Some are already being regulated and others are not, but they might be in the future. There's also a space of what can be regulated and what cannot or should not be regulated. So we have a brand new framework convention on human rights and AI that was open for signatures by countries and members on the 5th of September of this year. It's the first binding international convention on AI and fundamental rights, and creates a series of obligations that states have to ensure. And they have to do precisely with precise privacy and the quality and ensuring that our fundamental values are observed in this new technological wave. But there are also some not so recent, but we still can consider that they come in the last years, and some upcoming EU law instruments. We have the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, that has been implemented, sometimes with better results than others, that protect to a certain level and harmonizes the protection of privacy and data in the EU. We have the AI Act, quite recent, also a EU regulation that creates norms, and it creates, for example, in its Article 5, a list of types of AI uses that are prohibited, others that are considered high risk, and that and creates obligations on those that manufacture them and put them into functioning. And another regulation, it's a proposal. It will soon come out, but there is a consensus, but it's still not a final document, and we have not seen it being published yet, which is the European Health Data Space Act. This creates rules for sharing of data, for also rules for electronic health data, for two purposes. One is for the purpose of the provision of healthcare, cross-border healthcare, and sharing of patient data for the provision of healthcare, which the regulation says that is primary data, primary uses of data. And the second for secondary uses of data, which is to the use of that data and anonymized or pseudo-anonymized for research and furthering, developing health technology. Then we have more general regulations, the Data Act, the Data Governance Act, and the Medical Device Regulation that exists for a very long time, but has now been updated as well. We'll see also some changes in Sweden's health and medicine law in order to comply with all of these EU legal instruments. And that, I think I will finish here because my time is almost up, and I welcome any questions and comments that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you so much.